It is the Friday night. We are in association with Erdinger. We're in the wonderful Ship and Mitre. I was just telling Martin Fitzgerald that we had our book launch here back in 2014. Me and Neil did a book called Make a Stream. It's still available somewhere. I doubt we're still getting paid. But if you want to buy it, it's in a few charity shops and things like that. But one of the reasons you're in Liverpool is that you've got your Liverpool book launch. Waterstones tonight. Mr. Neil Atkinson hosting, and you're going to talk about the book in front of a number of people.
I think 51 people is the number
currently
so far. But Liverpool do like to book late. It's a thing I learned from 30 years in ticketing.
Yeah.
Is people get very panicky about numbers in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then on the day, everyone books. Someone told me that's because they all think they want to get on the guest list or something like that. But that was
you should be on the guest list.
But that was just Rob Gutman in the end. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that tonight. 6:30 at Waterstones. This will have gone out after that.
Oh yeah, this is completely pointless.
So if you've got a time machine, then
you can buy the book.
Yeah, first you go to the Maker's Dream book launch.
But now you really have to work
in 2014.
I can't even remember what the date it was. You'd have to search it for.
But yeah, you can buy the book, The Umbrella Man and Other Stories. It's everywhere, bookshops predominantly, but yeah, and the internet.
Yeah, so we are here. Me and Beth are drinking the Helles. This is still the only place in Liverpool you can get Helles. I did check with the good people of Erdinger before. It's now in 20 places across the northwest, which is really exciting because it's an excellent job. But this was the first place to get it in the UK, and it's still the only place in Liverpool. So if you want a wonderful pint of Helles, you need to come here to the Ship and Mitre on Dale Street. The other two guys are on the isotonic. Jimmy's an athlete. Martin's performing later. But you were telling us it's vegan, which is important information for our vegan audience.
The thing is, because I've watched this so many times, and as a vegan, which I obviously have to tell everyone, this is vegan because it follows the Bavarian purity law, which is one of the oldest food laws in the world, which means that there's no additives, no enzymes, there's no ice in glass, no animal products. It's just hops, malt, yeast and water. The Bavarian purity law. So thanks, Erdinger. This is vegan.
There we are.
That's the best anyone's ever promoted.
I was just thinking, every now and again, we get asked to do a sizzle reel.
Yeah.
And like, give us your best bits from like partner work. And I'm all like, I mean, they're all 6 out of 10, to be honest with you. But let's remember this, Beth. That's going on a
I've
sizzle reel.
seen the Erdinger away day, and that's why I'm doing this. Because if you want me to go out there and promote this to vegans, then
it's good.
I'm your man.
It's good.
Bavarian purity law.
Yeah, late August, early September. We
Sounds bad,
but
it's not.
It's good. Sounds like something else. We need to talk about football, whether we like it or not. But I want to talk about the manager. People might say again, but it's interesting on the back of the press conference today. You were there, so correct me if I'm mistaken, but he seemed very bullish on the fact that he was going to be Liverpool manager next season. He was like, listen, it's not completely up to me, and someone might surprise me, but he certainly seemed like a man and talked like a man who's gearing up to be Liverpool manager next season. He's involved in the talk about transfers, about who they're getting, planning pre-season, they're talking about hotels for the first game, I don't know, but he's all the stuff that you would expect a manager to be thinking about for next season, he seems to be thinking about.
Yeah, I think a few people I've seen have said that they've wanted some sort of official confirmation that Slot is staying as manager, and I don't necessarily think that's a dumb thing that football clubs do.
No, and even if they do it, it's like, there's the dreaded vote of confidence.
So it's, Liverpool aren't going to put out a statement on the final day and say Arne Slot is going to be our manager, like it or lump it. So this is probably as close to a confirmation that Arne Slot is staying as anything we're likely to get. It obviously backs up what the messages that we've been hearing for a long time now, which is that the club are behind him, FSG is still behind him, and of course that doesn't mean there's not a chance that something happens, because I've seen a lot of people put in sort of screenshots of articles that were written about Brendan Rodgers in the weeks before his sacking, and people saying, well, of course the club wouldn't tell him that he was going to lose his job. But I do think you sort of do have to take it at face value a little bit.
I reckon he'd have it in clip.
Yeah, because I think it
not booked on the tour, that sort of thing.
I think it marries up with everything, like I say, that we've heard. And listen, I took quite a lot of stick on the gutter the other day for trying to sort of be a little bit rational about the manager. And listen, my opinion was and is that I think shaking hands and parting ways this summer would be the best thing for everyone, because I don't believe, I've not seen a manager overturn sort of the landscape in the way that it is now. I think it's a huge ask for him to do that and go on to be successful long term at Liverpool. Of course he can do it. It'd be great for everyone if he did, because that would ultimately mean success for Liverpool Football Club. And yeah, I think the club obviously have their reasons, and again, people get very angry when you use the word mitigation. I'm sure it won't go down well in the comments or on social media. But again, that's not sort of my thing, saying, oh well, he's got mitigation so he deserves to stay. I think in spite of all the sort of outside factors, Liverpool still haven't been good enough this season. But ultimately, the people making the decisions will think that, and do think that there has been mitigation. That is why they've given him that time. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's everyone's opinion. But that is ultimately, I think, why they've decided, as far as we know, as far as all of the signs indicate, to give him that extra year at least to try and turn things around.
Yeah, mitigation's a funny thing, and it's all fair enough, but I was reminded on the walk over when Neil Atkinson told me you were on this show of something else wonderful you wrote here for Rupert Martin's album club, which was something else fantastic that exists in Martin's writing. It might have been your peak. No, let's say still to come. No, I'm just kidding. But you were talking about pulp, and you were talking about Jarvis Cocker and working in a call centre. Shall I just tell the story? Or
you can tell it if you want. Yeah.
So Martin worked in a call centre, and everyone was known by the first name, and you couldn't repeat it. So if Martin joined the call centre and there was already a Martin, he'd have to change his name to something else. Luckily for Martin, he was the only Martin, so he was fine. But another guy joined who looked a little bit like Jarvis Cocker and clearly wanted to be a bit Jarvis in terms of how he dressed and stuff like that. And
he was called Neil. Neil was his name.
Another Neil.
But there was another Neil working there, so he couldn't have Neil, and he went with
Jarvis.
Jarvis.
And then he took the opportunity to morph into Jarvis. And so more and more every day became more and more Jarvis, because he was like, well, I'm Jarvis now. This is it. This is what I've been waiting for. Fuck that I'm in a call centre. Forget that bit. I'm going to become Jarvis Cocker. And he was very annoying. So Martin did a fantastic line, which was, whenever anyone tells me I love Jarvis Cocker, I always say, well, you didn't have to fucking work with him. Which I really liked. It's a good line. It's a good line. It's a good story.
Fuck Jarvis Cocker.
Oh, Jimmy, ask your dad. So anyway, this brings me on to this. When FSG are telling me about litigation and about, well, there's all these understandable reasons. A guy sent me today a 150-word email on why we, as the Anfield Wrap, should be kinder to honest lads. And there was 21 points. He was a nice fella. It wasn't at all like your analogy being caught by a madman. Not at all like that. Yeah. He was a nice fella, but 21 points reasons he had why we should all be more kind.
Can he fit all that in 150 words?
Yeah, he was very
concise.
Wow. Within his long email. And he sent it to me and Neil. Neil loved it. Loved getting that, as he does, as a man who carefully plans every minute of his day, getting this. But it was and I couldn't disagree with any of it. And I think as well, when if FSG are looking at this, thinking there's all these reasons why Liverpool could have struggled this season and might have struggled this season, I think that is fine. But just like all those other people didn't have to work with Jarvis, they don't have to fucking watch us play football.
Yeah, and look, I think the sort of issue that I would have with that, and look, the first thing I would say is that no one should be unkind.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, anyway. And I don't want to be unkind about the manager, but there is just no evidence that this has got better. And for the people that were calling for his head maybe 6 months ago after the PSV game, I know a lot of those people were like, well, look, I just want to see something that I can hang my hat onto. And there's 2 games to go. And we just haven't seen it. So I don't know whose fault that is. But if you're looking for evidence of, how you should start next season, then I don't think there's enough evidence there to say that we should start with this manager. Now, there'll be things that the club know that we don't, and they will know the temperature and the mood of the players, and that's really important, because if the players have given up on him, then that's the most damning thing of all. But I thought his press conference was, I have to say, typical of him, which is that he was on the one hand kind of bullish, but he was also talking like he's just a cog in the machine. He's just a square in the org chart. And as far as I know, I think I'll be here next year. And you're looking for him to really sell his case of why he should be here, and you very rarely get that from him. And it hasn't escaped my attention, and I think other people, that we're in this week where the sort of Prime Minister is having similar issues and talking in the same way. And these two men who are pretty uncharismatic are just struggling, I think, with the concept of leadership. And I think that I'm certainly in a place now where I would be very, very nervous about starting the season, with him, and looking at those opening set of fixtures. If they're tough, I think you could waste a summer and another year. I don't know.
In terms of mitigation, I'm at my most understanding when I'm not watching Liverpool play. It's been, 5 days? It's been 5 days since my last Liverpool experience. It's been 5 days since I watched Liverpool, and so as I was reading this, honestly, very, very perfectly nice gentleman's email before, and I was like, yeah, this is all sort of certain points. And then I take myself back to last Saturday, and what I'm sure to be like tomorrow night, when I'm looking at us try and defend, and I'm like, why aren't we pressing or compact? Like, why are we standing off them, but there's also loads of space? What is it what we're trying to do? Forget about on the ball, off the ball here, to stop it being so easy for the opposition. And that is coaching. And I feel like you can talk about, not having the right players. You can talk about not having wide men. You can talk about the fact that to maybe use the old Rafa one. Maybe he asked for a lamp and got a sofa. It was the other way around. He'd asked for a lamp. Everyone wants a nice sofa, but in that situation, like, I'm sure, as Martin says, there are other people who are sort of partly to blame. But when you watch us, you just don't look like any of them have got any idea what they're supposed to be doing to either stop the other team scoring or even score themselves.
There's no conviction in any sort of football Liverpool playing at the minute. The players don't look like they're willing to run through a brick wall for us, and the manager doesn't look like he knows what he's doing at the minute in terms of the way we set up. Off the ball, that's normally where we do our best sort of work, and if you look at last season, we were so good at staying sort of compact and letting teams have the ball, but nicking it in them sort of moments and spaces where it was vital, and then countering on that and making them make mistakes and punishing them. But this season we've seen absolutely none of that. The thing that really winds me up the most is, I know you've got a manager who's really out of his depth tactically at the minute, and he's really struggling, and it's hard to watch, but the players should have a little bit of bollocks about them to then go, well, all right, what we're doing isn't working. We now need to go and put it right, sort of on that mentality side, and we need to go and get people rallying us, get the crowd round us, because the crowd aren't getting behind that. The crowd aren't getting behind anything, because they all just look so weak, and they all look like pushovers. None of them look like they want to be there, and that's the thing that's so frustrating as a Liverpool fan. Is I go to watch that game on Saturday, and after 5 minutes I'm like, oh, right, we might actually turn Chelsea over here because these are rubbish, but we're just as bad. And that's the thing that's so frustrating, is we go a goal up after 6 minutes, and then from that 6 minutes we let them bully us, we let them dictate our game. We try and sit in a mid block and control the game, and we get forced into a low block and don't try and retreat 5-10 yards with the pitch. We just let them do that. We give them all the time with the ball, we give them all the space, and it's just so frustrating to watch. And it's like, I don't want to spend my time going to watch that shite anymore. Like, I'm genuinely sick of it. Like, I can't wait for that final whistle after Brentford to be done. Say, like, thanks all the players for the season. Well, not thank them, but you know what I mean? Like,
politely applaud.
Yeah, applaud them for the season and their efforts, so to say, and the players who are getting the deserved send-off that they'll deserve. But I also want to then kind of have a bit of a clean slate going into next season, and try and be quite freshly minded and hope it's going to change. The thing with the manager is, regardless of what people think on him, whether he should be in a job or out of a job with us, whether he should be employed by Liverpool Football Club, as a fan, come next season, if he still is employed by Liverpool Football Club, me, and I assume and I hope everybody else will be behind him, because I think it could get teared at the beginning of next season if we go into that sort of them first 5 or 6 games and we pick up 2 or 3 wins and we're really struggling. They're gonna turn on us fast. But if they're gonna back him, we have to back him. And as much as we don't like what we're seeing now, and I can't stand it, I can't stand after players as well. Like I'm just sick of watching and being in the sort of bubble of Liverpool at the minute. But as a fan and as a lad who loves his football club, you've got to be behind it. And come next season, regardless of what the outcome is with the manager, you've got to be by his side and in the stands, and you've got to back them all.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Jimmy said there is correct and is right, and it was a good rallying cry. But the problem is that
Sweating though.
but the problem is that if the start of next season, things aren't going right, then those feelings that people have soon come to the surface. Like, oh, see, I told you so, and I told you wouldn't be able to do it, and I think. A little bit like Frank Starmer, once you see it sort of move away from you, it is hard to turn it back. It's not impossible. I think, we won the first 5 games of this season, so it's possible, to win the first 5 games of that one the season before. We obviously started well as well. So he's shown he's got 100% record of starting seasons, right? He hasn't got, the 100% record of ending them, or even middle in them, but starting season, so we can see how we could do that. But at the same time, I think when the feeling goes against you, and whether that's fair or not, that's almost by the by, really. And this is where I think the split between, or the distance between ownership and ultimate decision makers and the city of Liverpool isn't ideal. Sometimes it's good to have a bit of distance, I accept that, but they can talk all they want about reasons and mitigation and things like that, but the feeling and the fan base matters, and it is tough at the moment, and when you lose people, it is tough to, especially when you haven't got that natural charisma or leadership to bring people out of it.
Yeah, that's my concern, because I just think the potential for things to turn toxic quickly are a worry. I completely agree with Jimmy in the sense that this season has. I remember someone said to me after Liverpool got beat at Brentford it was in October. God, this is going to be a long season, and that was in October, and it has been a real slog. And I imagine it's been a slog for the players and for the manager too. And I imagine they just can't. And there'll be people probably saying, "Oh well, they're on holiday all the time anyway." But I think just to have a complete sort of 2 months or 6 weeks or whatever it is away from the football club. Obviously, a lot of them will be going away on international duty, but will do everyone good, I think. And I do think having that separation will do everyone good. I think having that break, and when you go into a new season anyway, there's always a little bit of hope, a little bit of excitement. Yeah. Particularly Liverpool signed 2 or 3 top players in the summer. People can say, "Oh, I'm not going to get excited about transfers," but they will, and they'll, Liverpool. Just
that, Rob.
Yeah.
What is the
indirect?
The verbal equivalent of asking someone.
Yeah. So that there will be more optimism in August than there is now, but as you've all said, I just worry the first bad result, the first bad performance, how quickly does that turn, and conversely, if you have a new face come in, they will be given more grace. And I think the reason it's so difficult from an emotional perspective, and I think that's a difficult thing here, it's the people making the decision are making what they feel is a rational decision. And they're right to do that in a way, because that's what they're paid to do, and that's their job. But ultimately, as football fans, it's all about emotion, and the emotional response that people have to the way Liverpool has been this season is understandably not a particularly charitable one. And you do wonder if people who are making the decisions have maybe underestimated quite how intense those emotional responses are. And I think it's made more complicated by the fact of the Alonso thing, because if it was tough having Alonso sort of out of work in the background, then if he goes to Chelsea and does well at Chelsea, which he might not, because it's a basket case of a club, but he could well go there and get some good results, and Liverpool don't do well, you can just imagine what the toxicity will be like then. But I'm sure the people who are making the decisions would say, well, we don't want to be dictated to by what we think someone else might do at Chelsea. If they think that Slot is the right guy for the job, then they're not going to be swayed by that. But that is my concern. I do worry going into next season how much patience people will have for him, because I don't think it will be a lot.
There's such like an emotive and reactive fan base though, aren't we? Like even
of cranks, absolutely.
Yeah, even like outside of the ground though, like everything that goes on, we react to it emotionally every time. Like Saturday, the minute that they told that Rio, we found that Rio was going off, he was getting stick for it because we were like, oh, why is he doing this? And everyone got on his back, sort of thing. Whether you'd agree with the booing or not, that's a different story. But there's people in there who done it, and.
But I think it's because it's at a point now where people want a reason to want something to sort of hang the frustration on, and I think the Rio thing, when like out of context, even if he hadn't have been struggling, which he was, I think people, I think it's a fairly sensible decision to take off a 17-year-old kid who's not done an awful lot in the game.
He hasn't played more than 70 minutes in a game, I don't think, for us in the first team, has he? So.
But because now people are looking for anything to be frustrated at as a consequence of how poor things have been, it's just really hard because they will boo things like that. Yeah.
But that's my sort of point with the beginning of next season, is like it could get to that. Yeah. We could be 3 games in and we could have a performance like we did Forest, like in his first season, and people could switch like that instantly. We had 2 decent performances in the Ipswich and the Brentford game, but then that Forest performance came round, and I know we reacted quite well with the United game was the game before, where we reacted quite well after Forest. We had 3 good performances, then we had Forest, and then
they didn't lose again till April.
But then what we reacted as fans is like, we'll get behind this, but because we're all so pissed off and so frustrated, I'm just a little bit scared that like, if he is to be in the driver's seat for us next season, that it's going to turn turgid really quick. And all it could take is one loss. People are going, I'm done with him now. I know people are done with him now, but it could come to that point where we've had a bit of hope and optimism behind him, and people are going to just go, oh no, fuck that, I'm completely done now. Like, I want gone now, sort of thing.
The Xavi Alonso, if he does go to Chelsea, it's a big if, I have no idea. But if he does, it is a reminder that, like, these big clubs in England could just almost just stay what they want and do what they want. And I've seen a lot of people, Martin, say that they're worried about, Liverpool haven't got certainty over the manager, they won't be able to attract any players. And I'm like, listen, first of all, we're Liverpool. Secondly, we pay loads of money in wages. We give you, you get weighed in if you come to Liverpool. We're playing in the Champions League. We're fucking Liverpool. Despite the fact we're all cranks, as Jimmy said, it's a great place to come and play football.
But we're all sound as well.
Once you get to know us. But it's like, but all those things, like, I'm not worried about any of that. And so, because if instability meant it was hard to sign players, Chelsea would never sign players, and they signed the most players. They're always say what you want about Chelsea, they're always signing players.
Same as United, they
exactly
always signing players.
And so I don't think this summer is this big, sliding doors moment between us being like an elite club and us like kind of sliding down. We might have a shit season next season, and I don't want to see that. But it's not. We're not in this situation like of it's always like do or die. If people will always want to play for Liverpool.
Yeah, one of the things
I don't manage Liverpool.
One of the things that we need to really guard against is we had such a successful hit rate with transfers.
Yeah.
Particularly under Klopp. You could probably say the only one that didn't work was Naby Keita. And
it wasn't that
bad.
Yeah, good
and it made sense at the time.
He had knees back of Quavers, didn't he?
Yeah, so all of those signings, people like Wijnaldum, Fabinho, it was such a strong hit rate. And the last summer hasn't been great so far. There's a lot of question marks over that group. And you don't want to get into a situation which United did get into, where you've suddenly got a load of players that you've spent a lot of money for that you want to get rid of. But you've also got to play them because they're the only people that you've got left. And I'm concerned about that. I'm also just concerned about, what the club is looking for from a manager, because I think Edwards got burnt a little bit by how dominant Klopp was and the demands that Klopp wanted, and in terms of his say on everything. So I think, Edwards very definitely doesn't want another person like that, and he hasn't got that in Slot. He's got a very compliant manager that respects the organisational chart and no doubt manages upwards really, really well. Does that personality make a great manager? And
great Liverpool manager.
That's what I'm concerned about, is that the type of manager that we need that is going to that is going to harness Anfield and, you know, stand up for us, may not be the sort of person that Michael Edwards wants reporting into him. Because we had one of those guys once, and he walked out the door because he couldn't be bothered with it. So I'm concerned about the role of head coach and the personality that fits that role being different to the personality that is someone that 60,000 people can march behind and can really harness a city and a football club. I think there's a disconnect there.
The challenge there is who fits that model at the minute, in terms of, you know, Luis Enrique would be, I think, a lot of people's dream choice, but prizing him away from PSG is...
He'll surely get bored at some point.
Quite possibly, and
so.
I think, you know, I've spoken to a couple of people who said they're convinced he's going to end up in the Premier League at some point. But when that will be, or, you know, what the competition for him will be like, I imagine it will be quite high. But beyond him, I said this on the gutter the other day, I don't necessarily think there are too many candidates who would be that person. I think Alonso, people would get behind him in a way because of what he did for the club as a player. But in terms of his style as a manager, I'm not sure he's that personality either. And then, you know, I think Iraola is someone else who's been talked about a lot, who I think is a top coach. But I think people might get 6 months down the line with Iraola. And listen, if Liverpool were winning, they wouldn't be bothered. But I think if Liverpool had a sticky patch, people would be saying, oh, he's not got the charisma, because he's quite a mild-mannered guy. So I think that's the dilemma, really. It's who is out there that fits that mould that Klopp had, because I don't think there is an extensive list of options.
I think, you know, one of the things that we sort of showed last year was that we don't mind a manager that doesn't kind of beat his chest and is super charismatic if we're winning.
Yeah.
We don't mind that. Yeah. But when you're losing 18 games and you're having a tough time, well, that's when we want to see something, some kind of fight in that person that is, I mean, first of all, just standing up for himself, not making excuses about things, but just reminding people that he won the league. And being a little bit combative sometimes, and trying to create an atmosphere around Anfield, which is you know, hard for other teams to come into. And I don't think he's done that at all. So I think that this has been, you know, by far the worst period of his managerial career, and it was that in October. And what we've seen is that he hasn't been able to turn that around. And there are some people that are really good in adversity. They love a crisis. I'm one of those people. You know, give me a crisis, I'm great. The rest of the time, I'm rubbish. But he has not been good with dealing with this, and his way of dealing with this is almost to suggest it's not happening, or that there are reasons that are beyond his control. It's in the you know, lap of the gods. It's bad luck. It's the amount of set pieces. It's something that he can't control. And it's like, well, but you can, because you're the leader. That's what you've got to believe, that you can control this, because we need you to believe that. And that's the most worrying thing I've felt all season.
I think with Klopp as well, though, like even Jordan, like that 22-23 season, we all felt like we can go to war with him. Whereas with Slot now, I don't think anyone want to go the Aldi with him. Like we all don't want to go anywhere with him. We're like, he's not willing to do it, so I'm not willing to do it. Whereas with Klopp, he put his neck on the line week in, week out. And even in them games where we were poor, and that season was dire as well. Like I think it just goes to show how bad it was, because people compare it to this year. But even Jordan that year, we were all still behind the team, we were all still behind the players, because he'd give us something to kind of rally us a little bit, where Slot's kind of just got on his deck chair and just gone, oh no, we'll be fine, we'll cruise through this. But you can't cruise through this, you've got to fight through it.
But also, there was genuine mitigation that year, particularly in terms of the centre-backs. We were playing...
Well, that was the other one.
Yeah.
So 22-23 was when all the midfielders fell off.
Yeah.
That was all the midfielders couldn't go anymore.
I think you can't say there was mitigation for Klopp and then say there isn't this season. And I think the thing is, Klopp he's just so loved, and you know, you look back now on everything that was positive about him, and rightly so, because he, you know, transformed the fortunes of the club. But there were some absolutely dire, and I imagine in this sort of, I'm not saying that people wanted rid of him, and certainly not to the extent that they do Slot, but I think there probably were conversations and people frustrated, emotional after games, where after getting beaten 3-0 by Wolves and 3-0 by Brighton, questioning, what changes here. But I think people as well were more prepared to side with him than the players at that period. Whereas I think now, because of the personality thing and the fact that he isn't sort of this kind of spiritual leader in the way that Klopp was, I don't think people are willing to do that.
But you also got a sense in some of those seasons that towards the end of the season, it was going in the right direction.
Yeah, it improved massively towards the end of that season.
There was a COVID season where we ended up qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah, what an Old Trafford.
And the season where the midfielders' legs fell off, well, okay, that's solvable. I'll buy some people with some new legs. But it's been throughout the whole team. Whatever's happened, it seems to have affected everyone. So I don't know what the simple fix is anymore. I don't know I don't know who you keep for next year.
Neither. I think that's the tough question as well.
And I don't know who you're starting next year. So this seems like it almost cuts through the entire playing squad.
Not one of them have proved their number on the back of the shirt for next season. None of them. Not one of them I look at and go, all right, maybe you do. People will argue Szoboszlai, but then the things he does and says after the game, it's like, why are you doing that? You want to be a bit of a leader. You can't be coming out saying these like erratic sort of things. You need to chill sort of thing.
I mean, he's been good, and at times he's been excellent.
Yeah. He's been a brilliant footballer.
But he's not in, for example, he's not in the conversation for like Team of the Year or anything like that.
No.
Right. So and he has been by far and away our best player.
Yeah.
And he's not getting in anyone's best midfield of the season. No. So, that's where we are. And it's hard. I mean, there's other players that you think, I don't even know what position you should be playing, which is never a good thing in football.
Centre mid or right back.
Yeah.
You going tomorrow? Looking forward to it?
I am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because it's a game closer to the end of the season. So that is my...
And a game closer to home than some of the...
Yeah, that is true. I'm a big fan of an away day that takes less than an hour and a half to get there. So, yeah. I mean, can't get much worse, can it? So
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Well, it can. I hate to say this,
Yeah,
but
it can.
there is the nightmare scenario which I've got in my head, which is that Brighton are 6 points behind us. And if we lose against Villa and Brighton win against Leeds, they're 3 points behind us.
Well, Bournemouth really close, so yeah.
Yeah, but Bournemouth have to play Man City.
Yeah.
So the last game of the season would be us against Brentford, which we would need to win. But Brighton have got United. So imagine United thinking, well, if we just lose this, Liverpool are out of the Champions League. All of their, and they can't do better than third, and they can't do worse than third. All of their, and that's at Brighton. All of their, it can get worse. All of their fans will be wanting Brighton.
I don't think the players would do it deliberately.
And if they do, if Brighton win their next 2 games, which I'm telling you is very possible, and we lose our 2, which is also very possible, by definition they will beat our goal difference. So I need that scenario to get out of my head quickly.
So you just need to win tomorrow, basically.
Or get a point.
Yeah.
Or get a point. If we lose tomorrow and Brighton beat Leeds, then it does go down to this scenario which involves Man United doing us a favour. And that is a terrible place to be in, John.
You take a point?
No, I want all 3. Being greedy.
There you are. Jimmy's being greedy. That has been the Friday night. Huge thanks to Ship and Mitre for hosting us. Huge thanks to Erdinger for not just bringing Hellas over to the UK, but also partner with us as ever. Thanks to Paddy for making all this happen. I feel like we're in a little studio. I'm saying, what a great spot. Back here very soon, up the Reds.